Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opus Otaku, the place where I blabber about Japanese cartoons. Today, I shall be reviewing the Bizarre Adventure of Jojo. That sounded really cringe. But anyway, I'll be reviewing it from parts 1 to 3. It's not going to be an out of 10 review, because then people can just skip to the end, and that's just, not cool for me. This will most definitely contain spoilers for people who have not watched Jojo until part 3. But I will leave timestamps to the review of each part. Anyway, I'll just let you know that my favorite flavor of ice cream is strawberry because it's obviously very important. So starting with part 1, aka the second worst JoJo part. For most people, this would probably be their least favorite arc, but for me, it's not bad, and here's why. The short version has 9 episodes. It has 9 fucking episodes. You can literally watch the entire thing in 3 hours. Even though the concept of, okay, I wear mask and oh shit, now sunlight, give me ouchie cause I'm a vampire, is kind of boring, it's not a big problem because this part is so short. The only problem this would cause is people who start are gonna leave immediately and oh wait, no, yeah, that's actually a pretty big problem now that I think about it. Some people told me to skip this part, but I didn't because it's not a big deal and it goes against my policy of never skipping or dropping stuff. Now, when Hamon was first introduced, I was like, okay, this doesn't seem all that bad, or at least it sounds flashy, harnessing the sun's energy and all, but the more I watched, the more I started to dislike it. It didn't make sense because if Hamon was used on vampires, they die immediately, and that's a bit overpowered. It also had no interesting variations. I'm not a fan of Zeppeli, and he suffered the fate of the sensei. F and Chad for my man Zeppeli. The only thing I loved about this part is the fact that the main character won and died. Well, technically he lost because Dio wasn't killed. As I was saying, I like this part quite a bit because this is rare. Now, it's been about a year since I saw part 1, so I don't remember everything. But overall, it was a very average part. Nothing special. Moving on to part 2, Battle Tendency. This is actually one of my favorite parts after part 5 and 4. Starting off, I absolutely loved the opening. This part was the easiest to watch with no roadblocks, and I absolutely loved most of the characters. While Joseph was the goofy main character, Caesar was a calm guy. A lot like the relationship between Gon and Killua, except they aren't friends, or at least not at the start. Caesar was one of my favorite characters in the entirety of JoJo, and it was really sad to see him go. His powers are really cool, and for the second time in my life, I was terrified of bubbles. The chariot fight was absolutely amazing, and something that I've never seen before. Now, the Pillarmen were pretty boring as a villain. One likes cars, one likes the band AC/DC, and one likes Wham. So, they all decided to name themselves that. Now, something that I didn't understand is, since when can you climb on oil walls with Hamon? First, you can slow down aging, and now you can climb oil walls with it? That is either very imbalanced, or I forgot the explanation because it's been a year since I watched this part. Either way, I just disliked Hamon even more after this. This part has a really intense boss fight, like every other JoJo part, where everything seems to go downhill for the JoJo at the start, and then a massive turn of events causes the JoJo to win. Even though you know that JoJo is gonna win, the process is always different and interesting to watch. Joseph is one of my favorite JoJos, and we have seen him a lot, him being present in parts 2, 3, and 4. Also, the waifu award of this anime goes to Speedwagon! Everyone hooray for German sign. Woohoo! Moving on to Stardust Crusaders, my least favorite part of JoJo. I took an entire year to finish watching this part, and it was the hardest to watch out of all parts. There were so many roadblocks in this part, and it was not 9 episodes of shit like part 1. It was bad and repetitive, and I simply did not enjoy it. The sudden introduction to stands caught me off guard, and I remember asking my friend who recommended me JoJo whether Hamon was coming back. Sure, stands are much better power system than Hamon, but you can't just change the power system like that, except you can. I did some research, and the change was apparently made due to Araki's editor saying that Hamon is a bad power system. I do agree to that, but it is very similar to other power systems such as Ki, and I knew I would get bored of it after watching a lot of it. Stands gave Araki so much space and so many new possibilities. The change from Hamon to stands was a good decision, but I would have loved it if the change was made a little more subtly. Now, the first 10 to 15 episodes were great. I loved stands and the various fights. Star Platinum has a great design and I really liked it. But When it comes down to the Jojo of the part, I'm not really a fan. I'm not saying he's bad, but he's just a bit sudden from the hyper and energetic Joseph to the calm and calculating Jotaro. Anyway, as I was saying, the first 15 episodes were okay to watch. There were interesting fights, and some of them became our allies as well. But then, after the 15 episode mark, it started to get a little repetitive. The only thing that was happening is one of the group members noticed something, but they decided to stay quiet about it. Then, that member gets captured or something, and fights the enemy stand user, where usually the protagonists win or die. No losses. A few people with common goals become allies along the way, which is huge help to the team. I'm glad Abdul died in the end, because reviving people just feels wrong, even though the deaths seem kinda unnecessary. And Abdul being killed by someone like Hall Horse, who is like probably the worst villain in the entirety of Jojo, made me even more sad. Kakyoin's death, on the other hand, was a noble sacrifice, and it was done amazingly. Now, Kakyoin's Emerald Splash, or his Green Hierophant, was not really the most interesting stand. It kind of became nerfed later on, which is pretty sad. I mean, what happened to the thing where if someone attacks his stand, that person gets the damage too, in the first fight between Jotaro and Kakyoin? Now, Polnareff, on the other hand, was a pretty interesting character. I would have loved it if we knew what he and Jotaro did after the Dio vs Jotaro fight, instead of finding about it in part 5. Joseph's appearance in part 3 was absolutely amazing. I was really glad to see him again, and was glad that he's not dead. Now, Iggy, I don't really care much about Iggy, other than the fact that he's a dog, so I don't really like him that much. But it was amazing to see an animal having a stand. Now, as I said, I don't really feel like these deaths were necessary, but the reason I think this happened was because Araki didn't see their use in the future. Now, enough talk about our characters. Let's talk about the final fight. I remember my friends hyping me up so much for Dio's world, and the amount of memes from this part hyped me up a lot as well. I walked into it having high expectations, and they were met perfectly. I enjoyed the fight so much, and stuff like Star Platinum pausing Jotaro's heartbeat was amazing. There was so much tension in the air, and even though I was not crying, Kakyoin, Iggy, and Avdol's death hit me hard. I love the concept of animal stand users. Imagine there was a part consisting of an animal protagonist. No, wait, that actually might have been cool. Anyway, I do dislike Dio as an antagonist, mostly because his motives and personality are quite bland. He's just a bitch for the sake of being a bitch, and that's why I hate him. It was not satisfying to see him get destroyed because I've already seen worse. Killing and torturing people is so normal in anime that I don't despise him as a villain. But people like Doflamingo and Crocodile from One Piece are despised, not because they were made poorly, but because they were made so well and made everyone succeed in hating them. That's why it was so satisfying to see them get destroyed. Dio, on the other hand, was someone who just wanted to do something like take over the world when he can't even go outside when it's sunny. One of my least favorite anime villains, but he sure must be embarrassed after losing to someone while having such an OP stand that can literally pause time. Overall, this was a bad arc due to a bad villain, sudden change without warning, and too repetitive. Again guys, this is only my opinion. I'm not gonna ora you because you like part 3. I will ora you if you don't subscribe to this channel though. So make sure you subscribe to Opus Otaku before your teeth are broken. I tried to talk a little bit slower in this video, so make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Anyway, before I go, I shall give a teensy weensy shout out to Wavy for commenting on last week's question. And if you want to be in the next video, make sure to answer the following question. What is your favorite JoJo part?